Why video games are so expensive? Everybody, this is Alessandro. Welcome back to my channel. I know for quite some times now, there is always a lot of talking about why games are becoming so expensive, why it costs so many millions of dollars to make games, right? And what I wanted to do today, because I've been in the game industry for a while, and without mentioning my older company or anything, I just want to share some of my previous experience I had in the past, in the early days, and things that are still happening today. Even when discussing with some of my previous colleagues or stuff like that, there is a lot of things we share that I think is like the root, the core of why sometimes things get snowball and makes game development becoming so expensive, right? And I thought this would be very interesting to share with you guys. I have a list with me because I have a lot of things to talk about it today, and let's start with the first one, okay? Open world, guys. I think you guys are aware that from the last 15 years probably, most of the game company became really obsessed about making open world. It's like open world is the only things that matters, it's the only thing that sell the game, which in my opinion is not true at all. But the reality is that probably 90% of the game who do open world, they do not know how to do open world. That they end up with a open world that is huge, gigantic, but it's completely empty. There is nothing to do. It has zero gameplay value, and it costs money. Because guys, you have to think about it. When you want to make a map that is 10 kilometers by 10 kilometers or whatever it is, you have to model it. Yes, you have some tool to help you to generate the grass tree or whatever, but you need to model those elements. There is always people touching it. You need to review, you need to test it, you have to make sure collision are done properly. You need some kind of NPC, right? Because you cannot make a land completely deserted. Maybe you have a vehicle to get around it. You need to do all those things, right? So you're getting the idea where I'm going with it. There is a huge amount of work that requires to do an open world. And when you do an open world, and there is nothing to do, when you go from the town where you get your quest and you go to the point B where you execute the quest, and in the middle there is nothing happen, there is no NPC. If there are NPC, they have no interaction with you. You cannot interact in an interesting way. There is nothing, no side quest or no activity to do during the trip, right? Or maybe if there are activities that are so boring that you don't want to do them, that basically the same things, then bottom line, guys, you just spend $50 million to build an open world that adds zero value to the story and zero value to the gameplay experience, right? Here you go, $50 million already wasted like this, maybe a little bit less, but you're getting the point. And today, of course, we are going even a more extreme cases where people are doing entire planet and stuff like that. And again, they're all empty. So there are, of course, games that are very successful in making open worlds. In my opinion, I love all Bethesda game because the game is done in a way that you can interact with NPC, you have a lot of skill, you can go inside of the house, still you can do a lot of things that makes interesting exploring. Okay, there is the new Zelda that basically give you a huge, gigantic, sandbox where you can explore and do a lot of things. Dying Light is another one where because you have a great parkour system. It's really fun to go around. The combat is good, so when you find enemy all around, you want to fight them, you want to try new things. You can go inside of the dungeon to grab items to upgrade yourself. So it's something that encourages the exploration, right? Spider-Man is an interesting thing for the open world because it's interesting for a different way, not because you can interact with the open world NPC or stuff like that, but because the mechanic where that you move with Spider-Man, the swing web, it's so well done. There is a pleasure to go from point A to point B, right? It's like a mini game inside of a game, right? And so every time you want to move into the city, it's really fun to do, okay? And of course, there is Grand Theft Auto, right? That I think he has a lot of very cool interaction, like the way even physics works on the NPC. You can just have fun, take a car, run them over, and see how every time they react in a different way, or just because the physics is so well done. On the car, every time it could happen something different. And when you create an accident, the police will come and chase you, the ambulance will come. There is a lot of things will happen because the game is so dynamic and it's not very scripted, right? Yeah, sure, the main quest is scripted, but not the open world. And this make it really, really fun. But for everyone else, for all the other edge cases, again, you're having now a huge open world. And again, maybe you even have to fill it with thousands of NPCs and nobody cares about it because you can't really interact with them, and that's a huge waste. In fact, guys, I want to challenge you with something, okay? Try to imagine 5 or 6 open world, beside a few one that I talk about it are very, very good. And now you think this way: if you take that open world and you remove the open world section and you just make it, okay, every time you collect, you get a quest or something, you automatically get teleported to the location of the quest, and you skip the part where you have to travel there, you realize that probably nothing changed. Again, nothing changed in terms of story, okay? And nothing changed in terms of mechanics, gameplay, and fun, because probably the part that you just go from point here to point B, it's most of the time quite boring, all right? And this is already a huge waste of resources, in my opinion, that could be easily done somewhere else. Another things, let's talk about, for example, NPC and side quests. When you have huge open world, obviously you have to fill them and you have to make thousands of NPC. Doesn't matter if you don't do them manually, if you have, of course, some kind of an editor to generate those NPC and then maybe quickly adjust them. First of all, the kind of editor costs a lot, first of all. And then again, you get with a lot of NPC that are generic, boring. You talk to them, the dialogue is boring, they have no personality, no acting, generic animation. It still needs to be done, by the way, because you have thousands of NPC, they cannot move all the same, so you still need to record a lot of motion capture. And most of the time, if they give you a side quest, they give you quests that are boring. Games that continue to provide, oh, in this game you have 50 side quests, 100, 200. Guess what? They're all boring. They're all like, okay, go here, pick some flower, pick some mushroom, collect this ingredient, go here and kill those people. Are all like this. And because there are so many of them, again, doesn't matter if they're poorly done, still needs to be done. Takes a lot of people to review all of them, to test them, all of them, to make sure integrated. You need to see the rest of the game that doesn't conflict on those things, how your character level up, blah 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 blah. You're getting the point. Again, it's a huge waste of time. And again, most of the time, guys, it's the fact that you spend so much time and energy. The quality is down here because when you do hundreds of them, there is no way to make them good quality. There is no AI or whatever that can help you with that at the moment. And so again, you end up with a content that most people won't play, and you have to spend a lot of resources doing it. You know, like, guys, statistically, most of the game, 30% of the people complete the main story in most of the game. Even a smaller percentage does all the side quests. Like side quests, not all of them. Like maybe, what, 10%? The one who does all, 1%, right? So again, you're doing all these, no, maybe even less actually than 1%, because when you have so many that are boring, people tend to give up. And then, but yeah, people need to do it because they need to show off some number. Oh, this game is like 70 hours if you do all hour 200 side quests. You have all these, a gigantic 10 kilometers open world. Nobody cares about this. Nobody cares, right? You could have focused your energy in other different aspect, guys. That's the thing. And then people realize, oh well, our game is not selling, it costs 200 million doing it. Yes, because you focus all your energy in the wrong aspect. There is another things to discuss about it, like miscommunication sometimes between department. I'll give you this scenario that it happened many years ago, where, you know, level designer, environment artist do beautiful environment, fully finished, fully polished. And then the game designer is like, well, you know what? In our game 3 months ago, we decided our character can go and climb wall, can do a bunch of parkour or whatever. And the level that you did doesn't support this kind of gameplay. You make a level that is flat like this, where now our gameplay is like character need to jump over roof and stuff like that. And the level designer was like, oh well, you didn't told us anything. We had no idea. So we went away with that, and maybe they did 4 levels or something, and it doesn't support the game design now, and things needs to be redone. You will be surprised how often these things happen. This is just one example, okay? Other examples sometimes could be that people continue to do the model of a character, and the story change, it needs to change, and not be aware of it. Trust me, guys, these things still happen, especially when companies tend to be 200 plus people, all right? So it's very easy those things to happen. Let me see something else I wrote in here. Yes, another things, like, again, when I'm repeating the fact that you're having a lot of NPC, a lot of side quest stuff like that, don't forget, guys, that you need to build dialogue. And again, when you have hundreds of NPC, you need to build any kind of dialogue for most of them. Most of the time, those dialogue will be very shallow, to the point like you start skipping dialogue because you don't care. Will be much better, guys, rather than doing hundreds of NPC that you can interact and have nothing interesting to say. You focus only on a bunch of them, but really make them really well crafted. Okay, guys, that will be a huge benefits, because make you feel actually there is something interesting when I do this side quest or whatever. I really want to do it. I wanna know more about the lore, about the character. Other things, guys, I know some companies, they have this huge obsession about storytelling and cinematics, or dozens of hours of dialogue, which I love story, but when it comes to a point where the game put you all the time cutscene, or very extremely long dialogue, again, if you are not super well written, the only thing I wanted to do is skip those things, because it's very easy to lose focus on what is good and what is not. And sometimes I remember I listen a dialogue for 5 minutes, and at the end of the day it's like, you know what, this could have been summarized in 30 seconds. It didn't need it like a 5 minutes to explain me every details. You're repeating over and over the same things. This could have been compressed in 30 seconds, really. And when you see this loop repeating over and over, I don't care if you've done 10 hours of cinematic, of dialogue, I'm gonna start skip them all, because I can see there is nothing interesting on it. And again, we go back always the same. It's better to do less, more quality, rather than do more and more. Also because the more quantity you do, beside, again, it costs more, but there needs also more time to test it stuff, because more things can go wrong. Okay. Last things I want to mention are really losing focus on what is important. I do remember in the past when I was working in this game company, and we were working, for example, for an open world for NPC, and and when they give us a review, we have review of our work, animation and modeling. The director was like, oh, but like here the hands, adjust and make it improve a little bit more, improve the texture, improve the animation, adjust here the model here on the cloth or under the foot or something like. And then you realize you forgot the context, that this NPC is probably next to a house where you can't even enter, and you cannot even interact with it. It's just an NPC that when you work with your main character, you just run past by, right? You don't even interact with this character, so you're not gonna spend time to watch at all those details, right? But then maybe the director keep asking to do changes, like if this was an important main character. And now if you think this is not a big deal, well, multiply this one for thousands of characters that you might have, or maybe hundreds of characters, right? Imagine how the waste of time gets incremented exponentially. Well, imagine this one, not just for the NPC, imagine for every single prop, environment, that maybe things are so far away you can't even see them. So there are plenty of things where things that are objectively not very important, because not everything has the same importance in a game, but people tend to overspend a lot of time and giving a lot of headache to everybody to redo things over and over, when realistically they should have just be done very quickly and move on to the next task, right? And so, guys, for me, all those points, and I'm pretty sure there are a lot more. Maybe if you guys, you have something you want to share in the comments, feel free to go ahead. But those are all, I think, some of the main key points that really leads to over budgeting games that could be, I don't want to say could be done in a fraction, but then I think could be done for sure in a more efficient way, guys. And another thing is, I don't remember who said this, but I think it comes from long ago. Like a man was saying, hey, there is a good exercise company should do. Okay, if you can make a game and you have $100 million budget, and you lay out the entire games of from beginning to end, like with all the cutscenes, with all the dialogue, with all the quests, all NPC, blah blah blah, and say, okay, imagine now you don't have $100 million, but you have only $20 million. What would you cut and what would you keep? What is that are the most important things that you will necessarily you will keep, and you remove the rest of it? And you probably start to say, oh, I really want to keep all these important things about the gameplay. Maybe those other things we can remove them, are not that important. Maybe when it comes story, I will, instead of doing 100 characters, I do only 10 or whatever. Right, so really shrink back to the core of what's really important. And then say, you know what, instead of 20 million, now you have 30 million. what are the, consider you have only 50% more from that budget, what are the other things that are nice to have that will enrich the experience and is still kind of necessary to the experience. And also, if you have nice to have, I would like to expand a little bit more here, here, and here. Here you go. That's where you should focus and cancel everything else, because or else, guys, we will always continue to see games that are huge, shallow, really nothing to offer, like endless of content that really doesn't mean anything. I know people are hoping that with the AI and everything, you know, we can have more stuff with better quality. It's not fully necessary, and I'm not really sure it will happen. But again, guys, this is, like, in my opinion, one of the reasons why you know, games today are still extremely expensive. And I cannot say, you know, you can go from 100 million to 10 million, but for sure there is a big room to improvement, in my opinion. And again, this is just my opinion, guys. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this video, and see you next time, guys. Ciao.